If there's one struggle every female gamer knows too well, it's finding a game that actually hits the spot. Sure, developers say they're adding features and characters with us in mind, but if we're being real, most of the time it's just a half-baked attempt to tick a box. I mean, throwing in a token female lead is cute and all, but does the game really deliver? Or are we stuck with another generic story wrapped in a pink bow? Well, lucky for you, I've done all the dirty work so you don't have to. I've sifted through the meh, suffered through the cringe, and uncovered the absolute gems. So if you're tired of settling for games that are just good enough, this one's for you. These are 10 perfect video games from a female gamer's perspective that you need to play like yesterday. And where better to start than The Witcher 3? Because at first, I was sure I'd hate it. For one, playing as Geralt, a brooding white-haired monster slayer, felt like something I wouldn't connect with. But boy, was I wrong. For starters, The Witcher 3 gives you the freedom to take on quests at your own pace, which isn't exactly groundbreaking if we're being real. But what makes it special is how intense those quests can be. You can go from getting a hilarious haircut from a drunk barber to being faced with a gut-wrenching moral dilemma that haunts you for hours.
You could be right.
The combat is just as engaging. Surviving means mastering a mix of swordplay, magic, and alchemy. And with the insane variety of monsters and shady humans lurking around, every fight forces you to think on your feet. The boss fights in The Witcher 3? They are no joke. Every big baddie, whether it's a creepy Leshen or a pissed-off Griffin, has unique attack patterns, so you can't just button mash your way through. You gotta dodge, time your hits, and use the right potions and magic, or you're getting sent back to the last checkpoint real quick. My fave between Yen and Triss? Gotta go with Marigold, as she is my personal best choice for Geralt, in my humble opinion. Sure, she took advantage of his memory loss to gain a romantic advantage, but hey, sometimes a girl's gotta do what a girl's gotta do. Triss is just softer, and seems to actually care about Geralt's well-being in contrast to Yennefer's controlling demeanor and manipulative tendencies. Yennefer. I get it. She's a hot, steamy brunette made for the Butcher of Blaviken, and she probably has insane moves on stuffed horses. But I don't know, I'm just not feeling her. Overall, Geralt is such a well-written character that it's hard not to enjoy playing as him. One thing, though, that I've found takes some time getting used to is how the game's vast world and quest system often require you to manage multiple storylines at once, meaning Geralt's focus and priorities are constantly shifting, which can make it tricky to stay on track with one mission. Beyond that, it's so perfect it might be the best game on this list. Red Dead Redemption 2. In Red Dead Redemption 2, you take on the role of Arthur Morgan, a deeply compelling and complex outlaw navigating the challenges of survival with his gang after a heist gone sideways. One thing I learned while playing as Arthur, he's a man's man, and I actually felt his highly appealing aura while playing as him. Arthur's rich character development and personal journey make Red Dead 2 an unforgettable experience no gamer should miss. I mean, there's a reason this game made the list. With this one, Rockstar created a vast, immersive world so detailed and alive that you'll lose yourself in it for hours. From bustling towns of Valentine to the serene, untamed wilderness of the Grizzlies, every corner is filled with rich stories.
Old blind man Cassidy is not old crazy man Cassidy.
Vibrant characters, and subtle touches that make the world feel genuinely real. Another feature of the game that makes it stand out so well is how the world reacts to you. Be a good little cowboy and people will tip their hats and treat you with respect. Go full outlaw and they'll act like you're the villain in a Western movie. In a nutshell, the choices you make can actually shape the story in ways you won't see coming. Beyond its incredible story, gameplay is also pretty interesting. Arthur's got 3 main stats: health, stamina, and lastly, Deadeye, where things get pretty interesting. Deadeye lets you slow down time, mark enemies, and take them out in seconds, which is perfect if, like me, your aiming skills are questionable at times.
Who's got a shot on this? Kill him now! Hold on, string us up!
And since this is the Wild West, you've got weapons. Lots of them. Guns, bows, throwing knives, you name it. And if you're not vibing with what you have, you can always stroll into a gun store and customize everything to suit your taste. Oh, and you can even be a little dramatic and shoot weapons out of people's hands instead of, just taking them out for good. Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim is another open-world RPG. But unlike the first 2 games we talked about, you actually get to be whoever you want. So not only can you play as a female character, You can customize her to fit your vibe instead of being locked into some gruff dude's storyline. You can customize her look, pick her class, and decide how she handles the world. No matter the vibe your character takes on though, you play as the Dragonborn, which is basically a warrior with the power to take down dragons. The main mission is to uncover why they've returned and stop Alduin, a massive world-ending dragon. Along the way, there's an entire land to explore, filled with quests, factions to join, and decisions that shape your story. Combat is just as flexible as character creation. You can charge in with a sword, pick off enemies from the shadows with a bow, or rain down destruction with magic, whatever suits your playstyle. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim is considered one of the most immersive and influential open-world RPGs of all time, and serves as a major inspiration for our next game, Elden Ring. A lot of open-world games are great, no doubt, but Elden Ring sure hits different. Instead of stuffing the map with repetitive side quests and filler, it actually makes you explore the lands between. Every area feels unique, and half the fun is stumbling into something completely unexpected. Of course, exploration is only part of the experience. Elden Ring throws plenty of brutal enemies and bosses your way, and combat is as deep as it is unforgiving. You get a ridiculous number of weapons to choose from: swords, axes, bows, magic, whatever. Every style plays differently, and the way you fight depends entirely on your character build. Speaking of which, you actually get to create your own character, or Tarnished. So if you want to play as a badass female warrior, you can absolutely go for it. The developers definitely put the work in for the girlies here, because even though gender doesn't change the gameplay, it's nice to have that personal touch. Bloodborne. Ah, Bloodborne. Now, this is a game that doesn't just test your skills. It tests your patience, your reflexes, and maybe even your sanity. If you've played it, you already know the thrill and pain of Yharnam. If you haven't, well, buckle up, because this game doesn't believe in mercy. Right from the start, Bloodborne makes one thing very clear. Defense is a joke. Shields, useless. Heavy armor might as well be a fashion statement. If you want to survive, you gotta be fast, aggressive, and fearless. Combat is all about risk and reward. Hesitate, and you're done for. But if you time that perfect parry with your gun, there is just no better feeling than watching an enemy crumble under a devastating visceral attack. And let's talk about bosses, because Bloodborne's bosses don't just fight you, they hunt you. They're fast, they're brutal, and they do not play fair. You'll go in thinking you're ready, and then bam! You're face down in the dirt wondering what just hit you. But that's the beauty of it. Every death teaches you something. Every loss pushes you to get better, and that moment when you finally take them down, pure, unfiltered satisfaction. Exploration is just as intense as combat. Yharnam isn't just some creepy backdrop. It's a maze filled with secrets, shortcuts, and hidden horrors. You'll be creeping through abandoned cathedrals, blood-soaked streets, and eerie forests, never knowing what's lurking around the next corner. And just when you think you've got it figured out, the game flips everything on its head and makes you question reality itself. The Last of Us. See, there are a lot of post-apocalyptic games you'll find out there. Very few can go head-to-head with The Last of Us, because it isn't just another post-apocalyptic game. Well, it still is, but it's also an emotional roller coaster that pulls you in from the start. It takes the regular zombie-infested world that you may be used to and turns it into something unforgettable. The story hits hard, and the characters stay with you. The mix of stealth and action keeps every moment intense. Combine that with the fact that it has some of the best voice acting in the gaming universe, and it's easy to see why this one stands out. But even beyond all that, the way you play is entirely up to you, which means you can choose to charge in, take enemies down quietly, or even avoid them altogether. Either way, both playstyles are just as fun. Fallout 4. Most people might call this trivial, but not many games let you create your character from the ground up like Fallout 4 does. Right from the start, you get to design your own character, which means you can play as a female or male, whichever fits your vibe. Now, if you go with a female character, you can make her look as fierce, glamorous, or rugged as you want. Beyond that, the combat is a huge step up from the previous games. Gunplay is smooth, responsive, and finally feels like a real first-person shooter. If you've played older Fallout games, you probably remember relying on the VAT system, where time slows down and your accuracy skyrockets. In this game, for the first time, combat feels natural and exciting even without it. As a result, finding hidden locations and taking down enemies is more rewarding than ever. Uncharted 4, A Thief's End. Uncharted 4 is one of those games that pulls you in with its storytelling, action, and breathtaking set pieces. While you're locked into playing as Nathan Drake, the adventure that unfolds is so gripping, it's easy to get lost in the journey. Once you dive in, you're in for one unforgettable ride. The game drops you into breathtaking locations, dense jungles, ancient ruins, and even bustling cities, where you'll climb, jump, and swing across gaps like some kind of parkour expert. The movement feels smooth. The grappling hook is a game changer, and every set piece makes you feel like you're part of an action film. Combat is intense, with the option to take down enemies stealthily or go full-on guns blazing. And every once in a while, you'll need to slow down and solve some clever environmental puzzles. So even if you're not usually into action-heavy games, it's impossible to put this one down. God of War 2018. Leaving out God of War would be a huge crime, because even though you're stuck playing as a mean-looking bearded demigod named Kratos, the game does everything else right. It takes what used to be a chaotic hack-and-slash series and turn it into an emotional, story-driven experience with combat that still hits hard. The character progression might seem a little confusing at first, but it's designed in a way that always makes you feel like you're improving. I also found the boss fights quite intriguing, and right out of the gate, too, as this weird guy comes knocking on my door trying to be all in my business. You also have an AI-controlled companion in your son, Atreus, for most of the game. And even though he can be quite annoying, it's one of the mechanics I actually enjoyed. Add in breathtaking visuals and an epic soundtrack, and you've got a game that's so much more than just another God of War title. This one changed the landscape of the original God of War series in an unprecedented manner. Baldur's Gate 3. You see, a lot of games claim to let you shape your own story, but if there's one RPG that truly understands player freedom, it's Baldur's Gate 3. This game doesn't just promise choice, it actually gives you the tools to play your own way. It blends the deep storytelling of Dragon Age and Mass Effect with the open-ended gameplay of Divinity Original Sin 2, which lets you shape your journey in a way that truly feels like it's yours. And yes, you can create a female character exactly how you want, from her appearance to her combat style and even her personality. If you don't feel like spending hours in the character creator though, the game's origin characters are just as compelling, with rich backstories that seamlessly weave into the world. Beyond that, Baldur's Gate 3 feels so alive. You have to play it to really understand. The characters don't just look good, they react like real people. The facial expressions, voice acting, and writing make every interaction meaningful. You can flirt, fight, build friendships, or burn bridges if that's more your style. So there you have it. Which of these games will you be trying out soon? Let me know in the comment section below.